Welcome to The Explainer. I am so glad you're here with us today, because today we're diving into something that is an absolute game changer. We're exploring a truly fascinating, deeply practical concept from Chapter 1 of our source material, and it's all about shifting our internal perspective to find genuine well-being. We're constantly told that happiness is this destination, something we just have to relentlessly hunt down. But what if the very first step isn't about chasing it at all? What if, actually, it's about hitting the brakes? That is exactly the paradigm shift we're unpacking together today. So, here is our roadmap. We'll start with the decision to stop. Then we'll look at the illusion of external happiness. After that, redefining failure as growth, followed by letting go of attachments. And finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate shift, from taking to giving. All right, I want to kick things off by throwing a slightly weird question your way. Are you subconsciously choosing unhappiness? Now, I know it sounds crazy, right? Like, no way, nobody wakes up and actively chooses to feel miserable. But think about those times when you feel just utterly overwhelmed or deeply unappreciated by the people around you. How much of that stress is just a reaction to the outside world, and how much of it is actually a subconscious mental habit we've kind of just built up over the years? Well, to really get to the bottom of that, we are exploring the principles laid out in the laws of happiness. We're going to really dig into its psychological frameworks. We want to understand exactly why we suffer, and more importantly, follow its step-by-step roadmap to navigate our way right out of it. Okay, let's dive right into this with Section 1, the decision to stop, and breaking that subconscious habit. The absolute very first step requires us to recognize that unhappiness is often just a subconscious pattern. The text tells us literally, we must make the vital decision to stop being unhappy before trying to become happy. And the logic here is just brilliantly simple. Think about it. If you're sitting in a boat with a huge hole in the bottom, you're not going to start, decorating the deck. You have to plug the leak first. It's the exact same thing with our minds. We absolutely have to halt our pursuit of misery and stop the negative self-talk before we can even begin to construct a happy life. Which brings us to Section 2. The illusion of external happiness, and why external markers simply do not guarantee joy. Now, you might be wondering, if it's that simple, why is it so hard to just stop? Well, from the time we're kids, society hands us this checklist, right? It says, achieve high status, make tons of money, never fail. But the source text points out something really fascinating. Gaining those things often just brings a way heavier load. I mean, becoming the boss doesn't magically make you happier. A lot of the time, it just means you're now carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations and facing much harsher judgments. So if getting all that external success doesn't actually cure our unhappiness, what's really driving it? The text hits the nail on the head here. It identifies that modern suffering often stems directly from feeling unloved or unappreciated. It's that deep-seated lack of external validation, and that could be material rewards, sure, but it's also spiritual and emotional recognition at home or at your job. When we don't get that validation, we suffer. It's really that simple. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds. Redefining failure as growth and finding the seeds of creation. See, if we're constantly hooked on getting external validation, we become totally terrified of making mistakes, because obviously mistakes threaten that validation. But the text completely flips this on its head. It argues that failing actually helps us recognize our personal limits, which grounds us. And even more importantly, it reveals the seed of creation and development. Expanding our self-awareness through those missteps isn't just some nice silver lining. The text considers that self-recognition through hardship to be the true success of the soul. It literally frames your mistakes as your absolute best learning materials. When we bravely just face our own flaws and limits, we start to realize we don't necessarily need an external tutor or a harsh boss to teach us a lesson. Our own failures inherently contain the exact blueprint we need for our next big success. It's all right there. Let's transition to Section 4, letting go of attachments and cutting off the source of dissatisfaction. So the crucial point is this. If we want to cut off the source of our dissatisfaction for good, we have to look at the bridge connecting our feelings of inadequacy with that desperate need for external validation we just talked about. And that bridge? It's attachment. The text defines attachment as excessive desires beyond one's current bounds that lead to suffering when they go unfulfilled. Wanting things we just cannot have right now, constantly wishing we were someone else, or obsessing over inferiority complexes about our education or our status. Those are attachments. And they trap us in this endless loop of dissatisfaction because we are basically demanding that reality be something it currently isn't. Okay, so how do we actually break free from all that? Well, the text lays out 3 highly logical, totally actionable steps to sever these roots. Step 1, shift from a taking mind to a giving mind. Step 2, instead of sitting around worrying about your flaws, take that exact same time and energy and redirect it into studying and self-improvement. And step 3, recognize the impermanence of the physical world. Really understand that these worldly evaluations, these momentary setbacks, they are literally just that, temporary. And that leads us to our final point, Section 5, from taking to giving, the ultimate paradigm shift. That first step we just went over, shifting from taking to giving, is arguably the most powerful solution offered in the entire source material to permanently kill the habit of unhappiness. When we operate from what they call taking love, we're expecting constant validation, we're demanding perfection, and that inevitably leads straight to our own suffering. It's basically a personal hell of our own making. But giving love, offering support without expecting a single thing in return, and genuinely rejoicing in other people's success, that is the engine that actually creates real internal joy. A really perfect example of this is the idea of demanding 100%. When we demand 100% perfection from our spouses, our kids, our coworkers, like getting absolutely furious just because someone loaded the dishwasher quote-unquote wrong, it causes immense friction. Nobody is perfect. If we're only zooming in on the 10% they got wrong, we are going to be angry all the time. We absolutely have to lower these impossible expectations, stop trying to extract perfection from the people around us, and focus instead on what we can give to the relationship. It really all boils down to this one incredible summary. If you make the happiness of others your own happiness, you will never be unhappy. Just think about the mechanics of that for a second. If your joy is tied directly to the success of the people around you, you completely neutralize those toxic habits of comparison and envy and jealousy. You are literally hardwiring a win-win scenario into your own brain. As we step back and look at the big picture, I want to leave you with this really grounding thought from the source. Ultimately, the only victory is the victory of the soul. All those external, worldly defeats, a terrible day at work, the crushing pressures of society, they really just do not matter if internal growth is achieved. Your failures are just stepping stones, and your internal perspective, that is your absolute greatest tool. So, I'm going to leave you with one final provocative question. How are you going to apply this turn of the mind today? The next time you feel that heavy wave of unhappiness coming on, will you consciously choose to stop, let go of the attachment, and find a way to give rather than take? Remember, the choice and the sheer power to change is entirely yours. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.